Well, a very warm welcome to all my dear students. This is your English for class 8 and today we are going to be dealing with a prose that is the Stoneface-I. The great Stoneface-I that is in page number 120 till 123. Why I said 123 is because I'm going to teach only till that much today. We have more pages to follow on, but for today we will be dealing with these pages only. The Great Stoneface-I, before we get into the story, I'm going to explain a little bit of words to you which you might find it difficult when you go through your book. There are some words which are even difficult for you, but you can find that in your footnotes. So I will not be explaining those words repeatedly because you can find it in your textbooks. And the first word that I would like to explain to you is prophecy. You might have come across the word prophecy. Here, prophecy means being able to tell what is to come ahead of us. We might not have seen that, but we know and we believe that something is going to happen. That is called prophecy. There are some people who prophesize, and we call those as prophets also. But here we are not going into the religious term. Prophecy means just expecting something that is to come ahead of time. And then the next word will be beliefs. Here, beliefs is the plural form of the word belief, that is L-I-E-V-E. So we are going to do with F here because belief refers to the noun form. You might have studied this in your grammar classes. And here, the story that we are going to deal with is a belief of some villagers who expected something to come because someone had prophesied it. So, and then the next word is legends. Legends or legendary stories are stories of great heroes that had been passed on from our forefathers. It might be true or it might not even be true, but we have a belief that those heroes really existed at some point of time. And so we are going to be dealing with a legendary story. And the next word that I want to explain to you is hopes. You have come across the word hope a lot of time, but I'm going to re-explain it so that you will see that the main character of the story is hoping for something. And hope here means an expectation that you have for the future, though you have not seen it. You have a full hope that you are going to see that or you are going to receive something. That is the hope or the expectation that you have about something. So these are the words that we need to know before getting into the story. Here, you might have heard a lot of stories that are told to you by your grandparents, your parents, or sometimes even your elders. So, in this story, you are going to see a young boy named Ernest. A young boy named Ernest who is having a hope to look forward to something that had been passed on from your grandparents, from your mothers, and that is about the great stone face. We all have belief in our own traditions, in our own villages. See, many people in our state, or even in the northeastern region, we have a belief that certain stones have certain powers, and we had been told again and again by our parents, by our grandparents, and even by the people around us. We all have different versions of stories, but sometimes more or less the stories are similar to one another in certain forms. And here you might have seen some stones in your villages which are supposed to have supernatural powers, or which are related to past events which you find it difficult to believe. And these are the things that the young boy Ernest had to go through. One evening, when Ernest, the young boy, was sitting with his mother on the sunsetting event, his mother told him a story about the great stone face. Because when they were sitting on the porch of the house, here porch can be the veranda here in our simple terms. So when they were sitting there looking at the rocks and the mountains, Ernest could picture, he could see that there was a great face that resembles that of a man on the rock, on the mountains. Okay? And when he saw that, he asked his mother what it was. And his mother told him about the story that was told to her by her own mother. That means Ernest's grandmother. And the grandmother told his mother that this face resembles a man, and the villagers or the people of that area believed that one day a man with the same face on the rocks will come to their village, who will be kind, who will be good in all his ways. And so from that evening onwards, Ernest began to have a hope that one day he will live to see this man, this great man who was told by his mother to him that it will come to their place. And he told and he asked his mother whether he will be able to see this man when he was still alive. His mother did not want to disappoint him. See, we have experienced this a lot of times when some younger children comes and asks questions to ask. We do not just want to say bluntly that we don't know or no. That is the reason why we give some positive responses, though we are not very sure about all those things, whether it will happen or not. And so Ernest's mother also felt the same thing, that he will be disappointed if she gave him some negative responses, or if she said something like, we also have been expecting since our childhood, but we have not come into contact so far. So she might be having a lot of confusions in her mind to whether to say yes or to say no, but she just gave him a prompt positive reply. And from that day onwards, Ernest began to have his hopes that he will surely be able to see this man who resembles the face on the rock one day. So all his life he had been living with the hopes and belief that he will surely come and have witness on the stone face. That means a real man that was on the great wall of the mountain. This happened, and so he continued expecting. Every evening, he would just sit outside his house and look at the face that was on the rock, the great stone face, and he considered this man to be like his teacher. He did not do any formal schooling. He did not go to school like us, but he continued his daily work, that is, the farm works with his parents. And then when he comes back and he gets time to rest, he would always be sitting on the porch of his house and look at the face that was on the wall of the mountain. And see, these stone faces, when you go close to them, what happens is you don't really see the face as it is. You just picture, if you go really close, you will only see some stones scattered here and there. But when you look at a proper angle, from a proper angle, you will get to see that it really resembles some kind of things. And this was also a stone face like that. If you go close, you might not see that. But when viewed at a proper distance that is far away, you will see the stone face. And so this was a real inspiration. Inspiration means something that inspires us, something that motivates us to keep going. There are times that we get depressed or we get hopeless, but we also need inspiration. And you know what inspiration means? Renewing our hopes and our beliefs to go on. And so this stone face was an inspiration to Ernest, that he began to learn. He began to learn and cultivate good ideas, though the stone face did not teach him verbally, that means not with any words or any action, but when he looked at the face on the mountain, he would feel as if the stone face was smiling at him. It did not literally smile, but he just pictured it as if the stone was smiling at him and trying to teach him a lesson. So this stone face became a teacher for this young boy Ernest. Every time he goes to work, he comes back and he will also look at the stone face, and he would just speak to himself, expecting that he would surely meet this person in the form of a human one day. He began to give all these hopes living, and when one day he also heard that a person who was also very rich, who lives in some other parts of the world and resembles the face on this mountain, was coming to the place. When he heard that, he was excited. He was overjoyed to see with his own eyes the face of the person who was on the mountain when he was still alive, because he did not let his hopes go down. For his mother, she just said it not to disappoint him, but in reality, he was expecting that he is going to see the face of this man whom he had always been looking for. And he also hoped that this man will come in a form which would be so kind to human beings, which would have all the good qualities that a person needs to have. And these are some reasons that kept his hope moving on towards his future. And he would just look at the stone face again sitting on his veranda, and then he would be looking, hoping on how and imagining everything that he would find in this man who was always in front of him on the mountain. And he cannot just express the joy that he would have the day he meets this person. This had been continuing for so long, and more or less this stone, as I've told you, had become his real teacher. Though he cannot communicate with him verbally, he would just look at the stone, keep imagining a lot of things that he would do, and all the qualities that he imagined to be having in this man was continuing to live on in his dreams. And that was the reason why he also had the desire, the hope to meet the man whom he had heard about, that he was coming to the place. Coming back to the man who lived in another part, was that this man had moved away from the village where this little boy Ernest lived, and he had become so rich. He had gathered a lot of wealth. He became so rich, and now he had the desire, he had the urge to come back to his own native village. We all have this feeling, right? No matter wherever you go, we always want to go back to the place where our grandparents live, or in short, our native places. We say that nothing can replace our native places. No matter how well we are settled in other parts of the world or in other parts of the town, you always have an urge to go back to where you were born or to where your roots are. And this man, the rich man, also was a person like that. After accumulating, that means after gathering a lot of wealth, he decided to come back. And people say that it would take hundreds of years to count his wealth. You can imagine. How many days do you take to count your wealth? Maybe your houses, or maybe the money that you have stored. I'm not going to give you the answer there. You can find your own answers. But this man was said to be a very rich man, that people think that it would take more than 100 years to count what he had already gathered. And so, after gathering all this, he just wanted to come back to his native place, and people were all expecting, all the people of that village were so excited to see with their own eyes what had been heard from long back from their grandparents. I'm sure this story will not just be a story that had been developed from 20, 30 years, but this story might have been passed on for generations and generations. Maybe not even your grandfather, but your great-grandparents. So this was something that they were all expecting. And if this did not happen for so long, people will also lose hope. But this time, they were told that the man who resembled exactly the face that was on the mountain was coming to their village. And everyone was getting ready. And when this man came to their village, all the villagers gathered, and little Ernest too got ready to come and meet this man whom he had always been thinking of, whom he considered it to be his teacher. And every time he looked at the face that was on the mountain, it appears that the man was smiling at him, trying to tell him a lesson. And when he came, the little boy saw that their faces were quite similar. The face that he had been looking for years and years was so similar with the face that this man carried. But he felt that when he saw this man, he felt that this was not the face that he was looking for. We do not know the reason why, but something in his mind began to tell him that that person will come. He had already come. People were gathered there, and everyone in the village thought that this was the person whom they were expecting. And so, seeing that this man resembled the face that he had been looking for so many years, Ernest for a moment thought that this man was the person whom he was expecting. But he could not accept that this man was the face that had taught him so many good values. Nobody knew who taught him all the good values of life, but little Ernest began to develop a lot of good qualities. And it is all because of the inspiration that he got from the face that he saw every evening on the mountain. And with all these qualities, though he thought that this man was the person whom he was expecting because everything resembled him, but something told this little boy, he began to feel that there is a saying going on in his mind that this person will come. That means he had already come, but his mind could not accept that this man had already come to him, standing in front of him. And that was the reason why he began to doubt himself. He began to hear, he felt like he heard voices saying he will come. So these are the questions that are going on in his mind. Why am I not able to accept the fact that this legendary man had already come to my village and he is standing right in front of me? But his conscience was not permitting him to accept that this was the face that he had been believing for so long. And so he just went back home with the hope that this face that whom he had worshipped for so long will come again in some other form, and not through this form. Why? Because the man whom everyone expected had already come to the village, and people believed that he was the man, but there are some qualities that he could not accept from this man whom they have already welcomed. There were great shouts of joy because they thought that good things will happen in their village through this man. But this was not the same case, because this face, though he was rich, he did not have some qualities that Ernest expected, except the face. They were quite similar, but he appeared to be proud. He seemed to be proud. He began to show a face that was also quite arrogant, and he believed that the face whom he had been worshipping for so long cannot be this kind of man. Because it is not only the facial structure, the facial appearances that a person has to look for. It is the qualities that are more important. And we are going to end the story here. I'm going to continue in the next class. But what I want you to learn from this part is that it is not the outer appearance that we have to look for. You may be resembling a very good man or a very good character that you have been worshipping, but if you do not have the qualities that that person has, that is not going to work for you and for me. It is our inner qualities that we have to keep in mind. And this is what exactly happened. Though this man carried the same face that he had been looking for so long, it did not work for this little boy, because in some way he is connected with the face that was on the mountain. And he could relate to this man only with a person who is noble, who is kind, and has good qualities that he had been expecting. So with this, I'm going to end the class, and I want to thank you all so much for listening to me patiently. We'll see you in the next class.